Welcome to another episode of Pulse of Polynesia in the Hot Seat. I'm your host, Leaso Filoyali, coming to you live from Texas. And joining me tonight is my co-host, Chief Tusi Ayafi, all the way from Oklahoma. Tonight, we're sitting down with a true force in the world of football and leadership, a proud son of Pango Pango, American Samoa, whose journey has inspired athletes across the nation. From his days playing at the University of Wyoming to suiting up with the NFL teams like the Raiders, Titans, and Colts, to leading the NMMI, New Mexico Military Institute Broncos to a national championship and being named Coach of the Year. Coach Kurt Taufa asau has lived and breathed football at every level. Now, as the newly appointed head coach of the New Mexico Highlands University, he stands as one of the only two Polynesians NCAA Division II head coaches in the nation, bringing vision, discipline, and island pride to the forefront of college football. So get ready for real talk about football, faith, family, leadership, and legacy, because tonight, head coach Kurt Taufa asau is officially in the hot seat. Welcome. What's
Taufa
up?
coach.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, we're so
Want
grateful to have you on
yeah,
here, and thank you so much for taking the invitation. Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
excited when you accepted the invite, coach. It's such an honor to have you on this podcast. We always try to bring all the bright minds and all those who've been helping the different areas of the Polynesian Islanders as whether it's football or academics or medical field. So we bring a wide range of folks on, and so you were one that was on our radar, and we know you have a busy schedule, so we're grateful to have you accept our invite.
yeah. Like I said, I'm very honored to be invited onto you guys' podcast, and I'm excited to be on here to kind of share my journey and talk to you guys about how I got here, and kind of hopefully this episode will inspire younger generations that are looking to branch out from back home to across the world. So hopefully you can take away something from tonight's episode. So
Yeah.
excited to be here.
So, well, Kurt, Coach, let's walk us through your early life in American Samoa, and talk to us about what lessons from your upbringing shaped your leadership today.
Yeah, no, I mean, true son of American Samoa, born and raised in American Samoa, September 18, 1990, LBJ Hospital in Whangalu. Grew up there my whole life. Went to Matafa Elementary School, and then transitioned over to Samoa High School, class of 2008. Graduated there, and then was fortunate enough to get an opportunity, to continue my athletic career and education, beyond here into the States. But growing up, having a strong support system at home with my mom and dad, really, taught me, valuable life lessons, throughout my upbringing that, kind of led me to, where I'm at today, so very grateful. And, I give all my parents, both my parents, the credit, for, their teachings and whoopings, that instilled in me as a young man. Cause, like I said, I without them, I wouldn't be, the man that I am today, and and grateful for them.
That's good to hear, coach, and from someone that comes from Samoa. There's so many different influences, and you have like such a wide range of influences. And one would be, is like the military to your dad. But then growing up, I grew up in Samoa, and when you said 1990, it made me laugh because that shows how old I am. I was sophomore at Leongi High. So you were just just born around that time. But um, going back to values and such a young upbringing, between the military values or the cultural values, what stands out the most, as a young kid growing up, what was that influence that at that very young age that stood with you?
Well, I think the first thing was faith. Having a strong faith in the man above, and kind of following, the teachings of, going to church, going to Sunday school, going to Samoan school, learning the language and all that stuff kind of, ties into, the culture, all about family, all about having respect and kind of giving back to, my family and my parents especially. But no, those are some of the main values that, really, my parents instilled in me when I was growing up is making sure that, every Sunday you're going to church and, uh, giving thanks and, returning the favor, to Heavenly Father for, the life that we're able to live. Um, and having, a military dad, kind of instill, the other stuff too, like the discipline and time management, and also, physical, activity to where, I got to take care of my health too as well. So, but no, all in all, my parents did a good job of really molding me and kind of instilling all those values into me and my siblings. There's five of us, being the oldest. My parents really taught me well and making sure that, I look out for, my brothers and sisters and also, them as well, as we continue to grow old.
Mm. So, Kurt, I have to ask you about your upbringing. We had a talk last night during our test run, and you mentioned I was looking up your story, and you were once a baseball player.
Mhm.
So how did that change from baseball to football?
Well, shoot, it changed a lot when I, didn't stop, gaining weight and kept growing. Um, I think I hit a growth spurt, once I got into high school. I was this little, chubby kid, about 5'8", 5'9", in elementary. Mom and dad put me in baseball. My whole, toddler life is, drop me off at, Lions Park, go to the Ben Soleta field, playing baseball, T-ball all the way up to minors and majors. So,
Wow.
but got to high school, didn't stop growing, got big, gained a little weight and saw my friends, that I was with, they were all, choosing football. So I was like, oh, let me just follow the crowd and kind of see where it leads. And yeah, I played freshman year defensive line and sophomore year defensive line, and then got moved over to offensive line my junior and senior year.
Nice. Yeah, I want to go back to that, the little leagues. And I was watching another podcast. You mentioned something about like, was Napa the team or the league?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was a team.
yeah. Did you get a chance to go to like Korea? Because I know when I was growing up, all the kids that played like little league baseball, eventually they found a way to play the Koreans. It was like an annual thing.
No, I did not. I think there was a couple kids that were on my team. No, I had the chance to kind of go overseas and played. And I think at the time we didn't even know that we could do that. We just found out later when they came back and they talked about their experience. Um, and it was a coach's son too. Like, those two, they had the opportunity to go overseas and played.
Yeah.
Did you guys have like a, because I left Samoa years ago, so it's been like probably 20 plus years since I've left. But during that time when you were little league, did they not have like a football for, a Pop Warner type during your time?
No, it was so they were just starting flag football. It was at the
Okay.
Fangalu Park, like all the
Mm.
elementaries, seventh and eighth grade. Like, you'd be the only two grades to participate in that flag football league. But there was no little league like the AYF right now. No, there was nothing like that back then. They were just barely starting.
Wow.
Just got to go play it in a village in the evenings, right?
Yeah, it was either you were either playing at the beach, with everybody else, kind of rugby style at the beach, tackle and play football there, or you go play at the village park. So
Yeah, because I was just thinking about how like the kids in America have a advantage because they've started very young, and here you guys are where you're just starting, you're fairly new in high school playing football, and so
yeah, I mean that was a thing back then. It's like we didn't people were shocked when we come out to the States and we tell them like, no, I just started playing football in high school or senior year. They're surprised that we're kind of good at football with that amount of time spent
uh
Right.
you know knowing the game and trying to play. And I think our people fits well. All Polynesian people fits the game of football just because of our build and the toughness that we bring.
Yeah, they
yeah,
enjoy the physicality of that
Yeah,
particular sport. Yeah, whether it's
and
football.
not just
Yeah,
football too. It's probably like all sports.
yeah.
We might not have the speed at times, but
yeah.
size and toughness and physicality. Yeah, I think we fit in well to every sport.
You're exactly right, and that was one of the things that like I didn't really play organized sports, back home, but then when I was in college, I ended up playing, on the like the league rugby team. I mean, the college rugby team, and just from the village. When we played rugby in the village, it was always about how you hit someone or are you getting hit and sustaining that hit. And I knew how to tackle. I always knew how to bring big guys down. But then when I started practicing and learning the fundamentals, one of the things that coach told me was, man, you have a heart, and the way you're like, you know, how like we play, it's just like we play with such brutality. But then he said, your technique, is terrible. Like where your head is at, you're going to break your neck. And I was just thinking, that's how I grew up. Everyone tackled that way, Sulumululu, just taking them down. But that's one of the things I enjoyed by coming to the States was learning a lot of techniques. So when you were at a young age, did you see that? Were they teaching fundamentals at a very young age?
No, not really. It was just you know here you go. This is how you tackle, and that's how you get it done, and that's it. There's no like steps into how to tackle or how to throw or how to feel the ball in the infield. There's no like talk about like, the little mechanics that goes into
Mm,
perfecting you know you being at bat on the plate or trying to seal somebody with your block.
mm.
So it taking angles or things like that. It was just that's just how it was back then. It's just hey, here you go tackle him. If you take
Yeah.
him down, good. If you didn't, then you'll get yelled at and come back and do it again.
So, coach asked, thinking about how it was for high school when you were playing football, and you're looking at how the kids are playing right now, the difference. Would you be able to change a lot during your time in high school with the way football was handled? And what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, first I probably have the proper equipment
Mm,
to protect us because there are times where it's like I felt like I shouldn't have these pads on or I had a cracked on the helmet, but you still you can still buckle your chin strap on and you can still go use it, and that's probably the first thing is making sure the safety of our you know student athletes, it's priority, and then teaching the more fundamental football because I think if
Yeah,
we can build a strong foundation with the fundamentals, I mean whatever you teach after that, it's going to be like a second nature to wherever the athlete is. Just because we're so like enrooted in the sports, like we can pick it up, fast.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing is, coaching. I think coaching development, and not using, old school, schemes and, all that stuff, that we used back then. You know, I think it'll definitely improve the level of play,
Mm,
you know, and also the product that we put out on the field. I mean, you can go check right now, like Taufa High School, they won, the championship 5 straight years. Why?
right.
Because they've invested in their student athletes. They got a booster club that, that buys into, trying to get the best resources for the kids. And you also
Mm,
have alumni that came through that program that are giving back,
Yeah.
to Afuna High School.
yeah.
That's producing these NFL talent, Division 1, D2 kids that are coming out of Samoa right now. But no, I think those are the top three things that I would probably change is um, making sure the equipment that we're using is safe. Second
Yeah.
is teaching fundamental, across the board, and also improving our game by having coaching development. Because there's always something new, or there's always something that you can get better at as a coach. If you feel like you know it all, and then you're not getting better as a coach, and your team ain't gonna get better.
It
Yeah.
has
I
changed, right,
totally
Coach?
agree.
You
Go
have
ahead.
seen the changes, right? They are getting better and like
Yeah,
scheming and understanding. Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, go see Tafuna High School right now, Leone. I mean, those two schools have been competing in the championship over the last 2-3 years. I think it's just a matter of time. Leone is going to, get over the hump of beating, Tafuna, but I wouldn't see that, if they don't continue to develop them, the players and also the coaches, improving the schemes and improving, overall aspect of the student athlete.
Yeah. Yeah, so pause real quick.
Yeah,
Let's see
sure.
some of these comments that came by. Okay. We got from Janet. Good evening, Pulse of Polynesia family and Coach Kurt Taufa asau. And Tau Vivi, Talofa, everyone. Yeah. Talofa Tufo. Thank you guys for joining us.
So I know that it was really hard for you being well, I don't know. I can't say for you, but it must have been very challenging being the oldest and trying to set the pathway for your younger siblings, right? Um, and just talking with you last night, just going over our test run, just learning a lot of things about how big significant your mom was that
Mm,
played a big part in your life. And I see that there's a lot of kids that are out there that are probably don't have the parents that the mom and dad that you did. It's very supportive. So, um, can you tell us how it was your journey coming out of high school? You know, like just like you, when I graduated from high school, I was one of those students as well who nobody called my name because I didn't do that well in high school. So just like you, I was embarrassed because my name wasn't called, right? So can you share with us how that felt and what it did to you as a young adult?
Yeah, no, obviously graduation back home is big. Everybody wants to, show off, which is totally fine with me because that's the time where, a parent, should be proud of the accomplishment that their, kid, made it through high school, getting a scholarship to, go overseas or, in the States to continue the education or athletic career. But, for me, in my case, I give the credit to my mom, but it's really both my parents, just because, my dad at the time, he was, deployed. So he was always communicating from, over the phone and all that stuff. But mom was, physically there to help me and my siblings, around that time. But no, graduation came about, like you mentioned, I see a lot of my friends get their names called, and the little intro by saying, oh, so and so is, graduated with honors, received a scholarship to go play, to play football, at New Mexico Military or University of Hawaii, overseas and all that stuff, and, I wasn't that kid, and yes, embarrassed is the correct word, just because, I felt like kind of let down my parents, by, not having, something at the time to continue my education and, whatever that may be to, overseas. But, the work that my mom did after that day, um, really, this is really the reason why I give the credit to her, because, after graduation, mom was telling me, oh, you got to figure out what you need to do. You're not just going to sit here at home and, be lazy and don't do anything. Either you find a job or, go to school. But, little did I know, my mom was behind the scenes applying to all the colleges, filling out applications under my name, really trying to, look for a spot for me, because she knew how important school is. So she filled out all these, military applications for school. In Missouri, it was Whitworth Academy. I think they closed down now. Wentworth, I believe, and then,
Oh,
New
Wentworth's
Mexico.
closed down. Huh. Yeah, I've heard of them before. Yeah.
Yeah, and, that was one of the schools that, my mom, would fill out an application, because I knew, because I got, you know, what you call envelopes in the mail, saying, "Oh, we want you. Your future is here," and all that stuff. And the New Mexico military was one of them. But like I mentioned the story earlier to you guys, while my mom was filling out, all those applications, the late Paco Manil, his son was my teammate that was at New Mexico military at the time. She asked him, like, "Hey, how did your son get there?
Mm.
Could you put in the word for me, for my son, try to get a scholarship?" And Paco at the time, told my mom, just send an email, see if he responds. And she did. She got a response, and Coach Jeff Lynn, head coach at New Mexico Military, sent an email saying, "Hey, Tui, I'll be coming, down to American Samoa this summer
Wow.
along with the June Jones football camp.
Wow.
So, we'd love to have your son come out and try out. And hopefully we'll see you there." My mom got the message, came home, told me to get ready. You're going, there's a camp, June Jones camp, that's happening on this Saturday, and you're going there. At
And how
Tafuna,
was your reaction?
at the time, like I said, I was just a stubborn, senior that just graduated, thinking I knew it all. Kind of brushed it off, because I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna go figure it out. I'm gonna go put my name, talk to the Army recruiters and put my name in, because, I probably want to go join the military. Because that was one of the things growing up, is mom and dad were talking about, hey, like,
Mm.
school is important. If you're not, then go join the military. They have a lot of benefits that'll, help you. There's a lot of, you know, careers, in the military, that you can, maybe make a career in there. And, that
Yeah.
was what I was thinking of. And because, at the time, I didn't think school was possible. But no, my mom did all the work, and Jeff Lynn came down with June Jones, went to camp, even though I didn't want to. Um, Guess I did good enough for him to, uh, gave me a scholarship. But, but the way I got a scholarship was, my mom and Coach Jeff Lynn went to dinner after camp that day.
Mm.
I guess my Coach Jeff Lynn broke the news to her that he was going to offer me a scholarship, and my mom came home and told me, "Hey, you got a scholarship. Get ready. I'm going to take you on the plane, and I'm taking you to Roswell, New Mexico."
Such a great testament there, Coach, and so grateful for our mothers and our parents that they believe and they see things within us that we may not have, our own vision.
Right.
And I'm just jokingly, I was thinking of your mom at the time,
Like I said, at the time I did not listen. I was, being stubborn. That little, arguments, with my mom, fia poco, kali o ki ngā whape, le la alu ko, me keli,
Yeah,
lo
we
out.
shared the story. We'll see if he unfreezes here in a
But,
second, but
I cried
I'll let him finish
because,
the story. But I
I
just
didn't
want
want
to
to do what my
continue with
mom was asking,
the testament to,
telling me to do.
the parents. And he
But,
shared the story with
just
us.
looking back, I give
I think
her all
Jim
the credit
Jones, I
for,
mean, the coach he's talking about, it was
for
the head
following
coach at
through and making
University of
sure that
Hawaii at the time.
I did not
And
win those
so
arguments
he
and I
must have
did
been
not
holding
win those
camps, but
battles
it's
of,
interesting
the back
how
and forth.
coach ended up going to New Mexico, all because of the faith of the parents. And being that your son also, let's just share about your son because he has a similar story with coach. So go ahead and tell us your journey with your son.
Oh, you're talking about my son?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So, my son, at first he was offered to go to New Mexico, his coach at high school, which is crazy because I was just telling him last night that the coach here at the high school here in Texas knows about Coach Kurt. And so he had told my son that this is the guy you need to go to, you need to check it out, and blah, blah, blah. My son's like, I do not want to go to New Mexico. So he went to Blinn instead. But after a year with Blinn, he decided to go to New Mexico. The one thing about going to New Mexico, he always tells me that was the best decision that he's ever made because it taught him to really be the man that he is right now: discipline, obedience, hard work. And Coach uh, Kurt was the coach that would never sugarcoat anything with a child. He was upfront. He was a disciplinary type of coach where um, you have to earn everything. It wasn't given to you. And he understood that this life that we live in, these young boys, just like what he talked about, where he was stubborn, he didn't, his mom knew what was best for him. He didn't understand that. And
Right.
so he kind of played the same role with the kids in football that he had when he was at New Mexico. He did the same thing with those boys and taught them to where they didn't they weren't they weren't given things to them easily. It was all earned. And he, again, didn't sugarcoat. He was really a good coach, the best.
Yeah, I think he said it, the honest truth, the truth is
Yes,
going to hurt. So,
yes.
yeah, welcome back, Coach. We were just kind of sharing Leaso's son's story, which is sort of similar. Okay, I think we lost him again. He must have a comms issue. Can you hear us, Coach?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
I feel like I was
we
talking. I
were
was felt
filling
I
in and
was
we're
talking to
kind of
myself
sharing
for a
your
little bit
story.
there.
Yeah, we were finishing up. I think we left off on like how great our parents are and like how they believe in us, and like your mother's story of continuing to push you and doing all the the stuff behind the scenes, whether it's the applications and making phone calls, is because they see something within us, right? They know that you have what it takes. It's just you need a little bit of a nudge, in that right direction. And but I also want to go back to what you mentioned earlier, during graduation, the painful, like internally, because we're looking at our classmates and they're getting all the the praises and we're not getting any recognition. But then I always share, even on our podcast, what Colin Powell said: it's not where you started, it's where you finish. And how you build up to it, and then you look back towards the end of your careers, look at everyone on your classmates. Not saying that famolung or anything, but it just shows that you put in a lot of work to equalize it and eventually surpass others who had those opportunities. So don't want to deviate too much from on our segment, but Lea, so what was our next transition?
So I wanted to ask about, when you got the call and you were told that you were leaving, the journey that your mom had to take you to Roswell, because I've been on that drive and I've been in that area. It's not easy. So, um, and I know when I had left to say goodbye to my parents, that was really hard. How was it for you? Because, and I say this because there's a lot of kids that, leave to American Samoa, and not just American Samoa, other parts of different islands, right? Coming to a whole new different world is a culture shock. How was that for you?
It was hard. I never left home. My whole upbringing. I did went to Utah and Georgia, 2004 and like 2006 to visit family.
Mm.
But as far as like leaving home and leaving the nest and just being on my own, like I was never that kid. I was just, born and raised, come Samoa, thinking that I was gonna, live and, just die on an island with, with my family and stuff. But when the opportunity came, my mom, you know, mind you, my dad was, he was getting ready to deploy. I think he was in Fort Hood at the time. So
Mm.
my mom had to ask my auntie to watch my siblings as she made that trip to come, drop me off. But we did flew from Hawaii to, Utah to up to my uncle. My, late Awenga Shulevai, we stayed there for a couple days and then, um, made the trek down to, Albuquerque, got on the bus, drove 3 hours, had no clue where Roswell, New Mexico was. All I saw was as soon as you left Albuquerque, it was all desert.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
agree.
And UFOs.
yeah, I know that was probably one of the things
It's
was
so desolate.
first driving into Roswell, you could just see like the little statue aliens like at different places
Right.
around town. So I was like, oh, like,
Billboards.
You probably looked at your mom like, what did you just do to me?
yeah, no, like I said, it was tough because my mom came. We got on the bus, pull up to the school, unload stuff, went through matriculation, and yeah, my mom stayed up, excuse me, for a day, and then got back on the Greyhound bus and head to Albuquerque. And yeah, it was probably the hardest thing to do was being on my own and because luckily I lived on campus. We couldn't leave campus. Everybody that attended New Mexico military stayed on campus, so everything that you need, it was on campus. The cafeteria, a little, cadet store that was on there, um, and yeah, if you needed ride to Walmart, you could take the city bus that always comes by the school at the time. But as soon as my mom left, I had a hard time. I was, I don't tell people this story. I'll tell my kids. When I was at NMMI, recruiting them, I told them like, hey, like, yeah, I was homesick. I was homesick for 2 months, and I'm talking about homesick, homesick. At night, during the day, I'll act like everything is good, but at night, I cry like a baby.
Yeah.
Cry myself to sleep at times. You know, second guessing myself. Wanting to go home. But ultimately, prayer prayer got me through,
Yeah.
that
Amen
time
to
and
that.
really helped me kind of establish like my faith and realize my purpose at the time, because my mom left the saying with me saying, hey, like, remember why you're here. Like, you're here for you to better your, kung whairo lumanga ia, among ilo kung whainga ko ilak sa mo wa ia so songi uso mo ko whawhingi, mo wa ia ma ko, if that permits. So kept that, in my mind the whole time. And, it's kind of like my go-to when, things get hard. Now I have a wife and kids, have a family, kind of add them to my why.
That's exactly right, coach. And I love that about our Samoan parents because my mom said something similar to that. And my dad, you know, like even the hardest times, even when you're homesick. And like your story, it's as close as you can get to basic training. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like basic training. And you're right, it was the nights. And during the day, your mind is so busy, but
Right.
then when it's lights out, your mind is still racing, and you start to question yourself. But then with all that homesickness, that feeling, that parent advice comes back, you know, you're doing it for us. And regardless of all the challenges you're going through and second guessing, you're like, your mindset resets, and you're like, I'm doing it for the folks back home. And that's what I love about the Psalm 1 advice, because it sticks with
Yep.
us. And regardless of how old we get, or like even in our positions we are today, it can be 15, 20 years later, that still stays with us, right? And it's what motivates us to continue to push further and keep climbing that ladder. It's for the family back home.
So, just to add to this, right? A lot of these kids coming up, they don't realize, because when you had these boys coming up to you from Samoa, you already understand and know what they're going through. So and that's the good thing about having a coach coming from the islands, that you're able to relate to them and talk to them. Because I know when my son was there, he would always say, "Mom, he's always talking Samoan to the guys that come straight from Samoa, and I don't know if these guys are crying like a baby in the room or what." I said, "Son, it's different. You don't understand." Like, I understand, because I was the same way when I went to Westminster College in Utah. So, as you were there, how did you manage to, you talked about faith, and you talked about being able to have that to help you move through each day. Maybe it's not an easy academics. It is hard, because I see that with my son, and I'm so grateful that I got to know and understand how it works in New Mexico. How were you able to get through all of that with football? Because it's not easy, especially kids coming from Samoa. Academic is not the same as it is in America.
Yeah, no,
How did you get through that?
that's a good point right there. I mean, that's becoming a coach and coaching at New Mexico military. That was part of like our recruiting pitch to the kids is, hey, like, give you a heads up, you know, football and academics here. It's kind of like the Debbie Down version of West Point.
Mm.
With the
Yes, yes,
the grueling schedule
yes.
that you go through, like Reveille goes off. That's 5:45.
Very regimented.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so 6 o'clock.
Yep.
You got to be dressed and ready out in formation, because that's when they do morning formations for about 15 minutes, depending on the time of the semester. You guys might be out doing marching as a troop or as a squadron, and or the whole school. Or sometimes you'll just do formation. Usually when school starts, it's a little calm, just because obviously they
Hmm.
prioritize academics there. But the weeks prior, it's like they call it the rat week. It's recruit at training week. That's when they. It's kind
Yes.
of like, yeah, it's I don't call, they say basic or boot camp, but it's similar to that. You wake up in the morning, go do PT, you pop
Hmm.
two, you square your corners and all that stuff.
Mm.
Just teaching you the ways of the school, and how it should be as a cadet. But no, like, academics, football, especially if you're a student athlete there, academics and any athletics that you're involved with is super hard, just because of your schedule. Because you got to
Yeah.
balance, like, your schedule is planned out from morning till taps at night.
Yeah.
Like, you as a student athlete have to kind of balance your free time. Either you take a nap because you're tired, or
Yeah.
stay up and go watch film, or go nap somewhere closer, to that way you can get to your classes on time. But no, yeah, the academics there, it's top notch. I think it's top five or top 10 in the country in community
Mhm.
colleges. And if you can go through there and graduate with a degree there, I mean, it's different compared to other community colleges across the country.
What's unique about the military values? or the schedule that you live by. You learn at a very young age how to sleep standing because you can't fall asleep in your seat because you get in trouble. And then they say, get on your feet. And even when you're on your feet, you're so exhausted, you're asleep while you're standing.
Yeah, no, it's like people are talking to you and you're just like zoning out, and
Yeah.
those little squints or closed eye times that you can get, it's helpful. It can go a long way too, especially at those military schools that are very demanding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What I like about NMMI is because one of my fraternity brothers went there, and that was my first eye opening. And he knew everything, like for what we do as military officers, like operations orders. So you guys get an introduction of the madness of the mindset in military planning and decision making. So that goes a long way, in life. So just to be introduced to that gives you a lot of appreciation of what the military folks do. Because a lot of folks just think, you go and bark orders, but man,
It's a lot of
it's
planning.
developed there. Yeah, it's about bringing all these high level plans, and then you take your segment, and then how do you take that and lead your troops? I can see how that still applies in coaching eventually. So yeah.
No, it's very similar. I mean, it's very similar to that's why I kind of give credit to Nimi too, because that instilled that in me when I was a squad leader, a platoon sergeant, became a platoon leader, and then an XO within the troop. Looking, being in charge of 15, 20, cadets there, and then now being in charge of a program. I mean, it has its similarities.
Hmm.
That's a good thing about our kids being raised back home, right? They come here to America. And then Nimi had that program where, they everything was like boot camp, but they got to learn. That's what I was talking about, like the discipline. They were able to learn how to be respectful to those even that were younger than them,
Uh-huh.
but they were higher rank. So that alone, and also teaching them, like with my son, it taught him how to prioritize his timing. Like you said, you choose to take a nap or do your homework and then
Hmm.
get ready for practice,
Yeah,
And
no, that's a
so,
good point too. Because the people don't, a lot of people don't understand like going to a military school or being in the military, like you or in a organization, like your boss might be younger than you.
Hmm.
Like you got to take orders from them or instructions from them, and that's something that I believe not only taught me but also everybody that went to New Mexico military is like, oh, who's this high school guy telling me what to do? I'm
yeah.
this college guy, and they're like, but know that that teaches a lot of discipline is actually choosing to control what you can control, your response to what's being because some people they'll get in your face just to get in your face to get a response,
Right.
but ultimately you are your own person and you control what you can control, even like your response to what's going on. So but no, New Mexico military for me taught me that.
No, you're exactly right, coach. And military does that at a very young age to test their leadership.
Right.
So you may be great in academics and seem like a sound leader, but then they test your patience, and they'll get in your face and see how you work under stress, or if you're going to be that individual that will snap
Right.
and easily weed out those folks. Like, okay, yeah, he's not the guy.
Right.
you know, so let's outsource this to others. But coach, I wanted to visit something that happened. I think maybe your sophomore year there. So I think it was 08, 09. Tsunami hits back home, right? You're already homesick, and then all of a sudden, tsunami hits home. Walk us through how you learned about it, and what was going through your mind at the time.
Yeah, no, so it's actually '09. So my second year, so my first year at NMA, I did not go home for a year. I went home that summer of 2009, but then leaving 2009 to go back to school, um, because we usually report like July 28th or August 1st, being there, for a month and then hearing from our coaches, that we need to call our families and check on them because there was a tsunami hit, and there was a tsunami that hit, back home, because social media wasn't big back then. I didn't have an iPhone then. I had like that Boost mobile phone from Walmart, a prepaid phone. So I wasn't on, Facebook or in MySpace back then. But, you know, hearing that from our coaches and seeing them, being there for us when that happened, it was probably one of the, you know, almost a worst experience for me at the time, just because, they said it hit in the morning, usually when people are going to work and on their way to school. And I always, remember talking to my parents and siblings back home. Their routine is wake up, go down to the street, and wait for the bus to go to school. And hearing that, I was like, oh shoot, I need to try to get a hold. Couldn't get a hold of, our families back home because all the power lines were out. There was no connection. If you had a cell phone at the time, you could kind of get through. And we finally got through later on that day in the evening, and slowly but surely, each of us, American Samoa kids that were there, we got kind of word from our families, and ultimately for me, my family was good. We live up in the hill, and they were kind of safe. It was just my siblings were down in the street waiting for the bus. My dad, saw what happened when the ocean kind of went out of the harbor, and went and got my siblings that were waiting down in the in the road, and brought them up to the Umu world, which was all the way up in the hill. So
So your dad recognized the pattern,
yeah,
what most people won't
yeah,
recognize.
because according to the story, they said my dad and my sister said, like, we have a 2-story house that's up in the hill. You can kind of oversee the Pago Harbor, um in Pago, and in the morning, my siblings go down. My dad would always stand on the balcony and kind of watch them, make sure they get on the bus.
Mm.
And mind you, that earlier that morning, the earthquake hit. And while he was just standing there, and he said that he kind of saw like he could see the reef in the harbor,
Wow.
while the
Yeah, this
ocean
doesn't look
was
right.
retreating out to you know out from the harbor. And guess he figured, he was like, oh shoot, something's going on, and kind of ran down to grab my siblings and brought them back up, and
Man,
kind of sounded the alarm by our neighbors, because I have my uncles and my grandma and my aunts, like they live next to us. So he was getting them up in the morning and try to get them up to high grounds.
quick thinking, quick reaction, and just you know, I want to say it's his military skills, but it could be from him, being familiar with the ocean.
Yeah,
The
no, because he
man,
just got back from. So he ended up didn't make the that last deployment because he had a medical issue with his lower back that he had to have surgery on. So he ended up kind of like getting, I don't know the word, like discharged to come home, and he ended up going back
yeah,
to Hawaii to follow through with all that stuff. But yeah, he was home that time.
yeah.
Of
I
all
can only
days, that
imagine.
was the perfect time for
Yeah.
him to be at home, you know.
Yeah, and then there's other experiences too that, I mean, I don't want to kind of misconstrue the story, but he said that when the water came through and went all the way into Pongo, well, when it was kind of clearing out, he ran down with some of my my family members to try to see if anybody needs help. And
Mm.
he was helping people get out of their cars and all that stuff because people got caught up in when the water was coming in.
Even when with the injuries that he had, the adrenaline didn't even help him to push him to not think about his own health.
Yeah. No, it was him and my uncles and a couple of my cousins. They went because they couldn't drive because the road was covered. So
Yeah.
they were just walking all the way into kind of like Chinatown, all the way into, you know, uh, Pago to kind of see who needs help.
Amongst all the things that happened back home, and you as the oldest son, right? You're not there. Like this is the time where you felt like you needed to be home. What did that do to you, and how did it impacted your life?
Well, I was lucky because I had other kids that was going through the same experience with us at New Mexico
Yeah.
Military. And also I was grateful. We were all grateful for New Mexico Military at the time and our coaches for allowing us to kind of because we ended up missing practice because our coaches wanted to make sure that we were good. They gave us that opportunity to kind of like keep calling home and figure out a way to get a hold of home. But for me, it was really scary, and I was just lucky to be with all my usos that were at New Mexico Military at the time because we were all in the locker room, kind of panicking and crying
Yeah.
because we were thinking of the worst,
Mm-hmm.
because we
Yeah.
couldn't get a hold of. But once the power lines came up, I think it was at night. We were all still in our coach's office calling, try to get a hold of home, and but slowly but surely, we start. The lines came back. The power lines came back up, and we were able to get through our families. But at the
Yeah.
time, it was we. I
Yeah.
was just grateful that when my family picked up, everything was good for them.
Yeah.
That's good. That is good. Well, speaking of trying to get back into things now with school, right? How did you end up at the University of Wyoming? What led you to that university?
Yeah, no, I played my sophomore year. Did good. Was an all conference player there at New Mexico Military. That was like the first time that year. My second year.
Wait, before you even continue, I have to ask. You're all conference, right? So what was that fire that ignites you to become this all-American?
Well, it was really kind of again to what we talked about earlier. Is like I'm here to do it for me and my family. It's kind of like that motivation and the push that I was like, oh, okay, like I think I'm starting to get the hang of this thing, playing college
Yeah.
football, and I figured out, oh, if I could be good in at this, that I can. It can lead to free, not a free, but a full ride scholarship to either
Yeah.
Division 1 school or Division 2 at the time, and I was fortunate enough to after my sophomore year, um, while because I went home for Christmas that year, spent Christmas with the holidays with my family. And when I left to come back for the spring semester to finish and graduate at NMMI in 2010, I got a phone call as soon as I landed in Hawaii. Got service, on the phone. I got I got voice messages from coaches saying, "Hey, we're trying to get a hold of you. See if you want to come on a visit." Official visit to tour our campus because we really like you as I think you can help us. And yeah, and I had University of Wyoming called Coach Mike Fanoa called and wanted to get me out there in Troy University. I had Western Kentucky, Utah State, and University of Hawaii. And
Mm.
my first visit was University of Wyoming, and went up there, fell in love with that part of the U.S. Country. Never been there before. Love the coaching staff that hosted me, and met some Polynesian. I think there was only two Polynesian players on the team then. And then yeah, made my decision. Hey, I think this is a place for me, and gave my commitment. And came signing day, I signed with them.
So you didn't bother doing the other visits?
No, because no, understanding it now, once I get that last meeting with the head coach, it was just a one-on-one deal. He asked me, "Hey, you want to be a Cowboy?" I said, "Yeah, I love everything. I love everything that you guys are about, and yes, I want to commit." He kind of told me, "Hey, once you give me your word, I don't want you to go, you know, on other visits." I was like, "I'll give you my word," and I did. Just because at the time I was like, "Okay, I think I found the school that I want to be at. I just need to focus on graduating and finishing, with a high GPA and graduating my AA."
Was that the equivalent of the transfer portal that we have today, sort of?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, the transfer portal now it's like
It's madness.
you can't even wrap your head around it.
And you play with the kid that's here in Oklahoma, Sunny, right?
Yeah, so that's where me and Sonny we reported that summer of 2010. Yeah, that's where we initially met and found out that we were related. And yeah, I was there with him 3 years, and he finished all his 5 years of eligibility there.
Yeah. Uso Sunny Puletasi. So I want to make sure I shout out to our Oklahoma folks. So very close relationship with Sunny's parents. Also military. So that's how I met Sunny. And then eventually when Sunny came back from Wyoming, he introduced himself and I said, "Man, his name sounds familiar." And I said, "Hold up, this is the little kid, Sonny." He comes back. I think he's like 6'3", and he's like built.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And he's the one who's like asking me about you. It's like, "Hey, I played with one of your relatives." Yeah. So I learned a lot about the relationship you guys had up there. Yeah.
So, Coach, as you are journeying through the new school, new environment, lots of green grass and, cowboy style away from New Mexico, right? Um, Tell me, how did this adventure start with you getting into the NFL? Did you anticipated that, or was it something that just came on to you out of nowhere?
Yeah, no, it didn't hit me until my senior year. Um, like I said, I got there 2010. I redshirted because I was on the borderline of making the three deep. Or if I had the meeting with my coach then, Coach Jerry Montgomery. He said, "Hey, you're very close to being in our three deep, or so either you risk the chance of wasting a year and having not having enough reps to play, or you can just redshirt, get bigger, stronger, faster." The right thing was they get bigger, faster, stronger. So yeah, I redshirted that first year at Wyoming, and then played my last 2 year there. Junior year, I did better than my senior year. I think that's where I kind of got like a little attention from scouts and stuff. But my senior year, it ended soon because of I tore my PCL. Um, in practice as we were getting ready to play our rivalry, Colorado State University. Um, Came through the backfield, made a tackle, landed on my knee, got up, and I couldn't even feel my knee. Um, and then next thing you know, I had an MRI, X-rays, and yes, I tore PCL. So sucked. I had to watch the last 3 games, uh, and finish my senior year like that. But ultimately, um, signed with an agent that represented me pretty good and really kind of put my name out there. Did okay pro day, went undrafted to the Oakland Raiders. Um, I was with them, that 2013 through mini camp and all the OTAs, fall camp, and a little bit of the beginning of that season. Got cut to make room um, to for a quarterback. It was what I was told in the meeting, and yeah, floated around for a couple weeks, and then agent called me when I was playing basketball saying, hey, you need to pack your stuff, get ready. You're going to be on the red eye to Nashville.
Wow.
And I did. Caught an airplane, plane, red eye flight to Nashville. Got there, did my physical, did a little workout to actually see, I'm a guy they wanted to, keep around, and yeah, signed, to practice squad with the Tennessee Titans. Finished that season there with them, and in 2014 I was on and off with the Colts. And crazy story, my Colts career was the first person I met was Andrew Luck. I walked in, he was getting taped, in a training room, and he was bigger than me. Well, he was taller than me,
Really?
and you wouldn't think that was Andrew Luck because he was not clean shaven. He was like this, sound like this nerdy guy. Got up and gave me a handshake and was saying, welcome to the team."
Coach, I was going to ask you. I know that people always say the game is much faster from the college to the NFL. Is there anything that you think you wish had done differently at the college level that to better prepare you?
Man, you are right about the speed because everybody in the NFL is good. That's one thing I realized super fast was no matter what level you played at in college, once you're in the NFL, like everybody's good. I went up against this, me, like I played in the Mountain West, and there was this guy that came from an FCS school in Youngstown State, an offensive line, and we had our battles in camp and in practice, but figured out that hey, like no matter if you're good, you're good. They're gonna find you. Um, but yeah, the NFL, everybody's good at that level. But one thing I, would probably wanted to, work more on in college was probably my strength. Um,
Really?
yeah, I mean, probably my lower body strength. So I can be more
Okay.
explosive and quick. That was
Yeah.
probably one thing. If I could go back, I'd work on that, and also understanding, leverage and like little mechanics that you can gain an advantage versus another professional athlete.
It's the little details of the fundamentals that are very needed, right?
Yeah,
That you kind of felt like you guys were lacking of. But I take you took that little detail and used that with your own kids that you're coaching, right?
yeah, and that's the thing. Going back to what you were saying about having a coach that relates to the kids was when I was at NMMI, I could be the one saying that to the kids that I recruited from Samoa because I've been there, done it,
Yeah.
and it's just a matter of them wanting to take my advice or them finding out on their own. Because I didn't have that.
Mhm.
I didn't have that coming up. High school football, college football, and in the
Yeah.
NFL is I didn't have that coach that really was like a mentor to me. So, and that's why I get into coaching is I wanted to give back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell us how it ended up that way because it's such a wonderful story how it came from NFL to you decided to help out and volunteer in coaching, right?
Yes,
But before we even do that, it was when you got out of the NFL, you tell us about walk us through how you decided to make the change of either doing nothing and then jumping into community work for volunteer.
yeah, no. So when I got cut last, um, well, when I got cut first, it hurt, for me because I felt like I
Yeah.
wasn't good enough. But then getting those two phone calls and getting signing a futures contract, with the Colts, was like, kind of giving me that confidence. Hey, I can do it. But then, getting cut last was when reality starting to sink in for me. Um, it was that summer of 2015 or 2014. I was sorry, 2015. It was summer of 2015. I was at home working out, second guessing myself. Oh, and I was like, man, is it even worth it putting my body through all this? And waking up in the morning, working out, trying to get it, get something that won't happen again. You know,
Mm.
while I was second guessing myself, I was applying to high schools, around, the Utah Valley area. Sent my resume and went and met with coaches.
Mm.
Because I figured I loved the game of football so much that I wanted to find a way to stick around. If I can't play it, then I'll probably get into coaching. So went and volunteered at Saratoga Springs at Westlake High School in Saratoga Springs, Utah. That 2015 season, and then figured out, man, I think this might be it. This might be my way to stick around the game and wanting to give back because I feel like I have a lot to share with kids like me, from back home
Yeah.
and all the Polynesian kids, around the country. And then yeah, volunteered after that 2015 season. Well, during that 2015 season, like NMMI came up to play Snow College in Ephraim. I had a couple cousins that were on the NMMI team and a cousin that was on the Snow team. So I figured, told my wife, hey, let's go watch this game. We did, and kind of ran into my linebackers coach when I was playing at NMMI. He's a head coach at the time there in 2015 at NMMI. Coach Joe Fortuner, and really kind of revisited our relationship. And he asked me what I was doing. Told him I was voluntary coaching and working part time at FedEx to stay busy. And then he was like, "Hey, I'll hit you up after the season." And he did. Reached out to me after their playoff run and asked me, "Hey, I have a position available. Would you want to come help me down here in NMMI coaching defensive line?" Told him, give me a couple of weeks because I got to talk to the wife and make sure it's something that we wanted to do. And yeah, after a lot of prayer and kind of advice from my in-laws and my parents and my wife, we decided to make the decision to pick up and move from Provo, Utah to Roswell, New Mexico in the spring of 2016. And ever since,
Second round at
yeah,
Roswell.
ever since then, I've been in Roswell from 2016 all up until last July, 2024.
And I didn't even know you were. I wasn't following that closely, and I didn't even know you were down because I was down in Fort Bliss, 2018 to 2019. It's just a small world, not knowing where the family's at. But going back to your Raider days, I was telling you. Let me ask you first before I share this Raider story. As an NFL, do you have a favorite team in the NFL right now?
Be honest, I love the Rams, St. Louis Rams, growing up because of Kurt Warner.
Mm.
I had this belief. I think my grandpa or my dad named me Kurt because of Kurt Warner.
I see.
Oh, wow.
I watched them on the Greatest Show on Turf when they were 2000s. They were pretty good with Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, and all those guys. But now I'm a Raiders fan just because I got they gave me my opportunity to kind of live the NFL dream. So yeah, right now my favorite team in the NFL is the Raiders.
Okay. So you see all my trash talk to the Raiders, excuse that. But I was telling you last night, the Raiders and Niners fans always talk trash, and I think I was going at it with one of my cousins about back and forth the Raiders and Niners, and then another family member had messaged me, and he showed me a picture of you, and he said, how can you be bashing the Raiders when, your family member plays for 'em? And I didn't even know you were on the Raider squad. And I was like, okay, I need to stop because I'm probably pissing off my family because they're like, this guy's relentless with his Raiders bashing.
It happens. It
But
happens. That's just.
Ram.
No, I understand the rival between in the Bay with the Oakland Raiders and the Niners.
Yeah, I like
So
the
now
story
that,
that you said
oh,
about
go ahead.
Fred
Go ahead.
Warner. So yeah, it's something that didn't. What was your dad's ties to the Rams? I mean, did you guys live out there for a little bit in the St. Louis area, or was
No,
he?
no, they were just watching them through TV from back home.
Mhm.
So I have to ask, now that you journeyed into New Mexico, you went right back to the one college where it started it all, right? And so when did it become where you were the interim head coach?
I became the
And how was that feeling for you?
man. That year was an odd year, uh, for everybody
Really?
because I was a D line coach from. Well, I was the D line coach the whole time I was there. Um, but 2019, I got 20 COVID year. Our head
Mm,
coach then, Joe Fortuner, gave me, you know, the assistant head coach title and also the defensive coordinator title, which, I our prior meetings, he asked me, hey, what do you want to do? In the coaching career, I told him I just want to be the best D line coach in the country.
yeah,
But then a year later, he gave me a coordinator position, which is something I did not want to do because
yeah,
of all the responsibilities that came with it. And also, I felt like I was still trying to learn, how the defense works from the defensive line, linebacker, and the secondary. Um, but he gave me the opportunity to really learn things fast, and learning from him too was
yeah.
a big part of my career because it helped me. Um, but 2021 is when our head coach then, because we had our season in the spring because of COVID, we couldn't play in that fall of 20. So we
Mm,
had our season moved to spring of 2021. Uh, Played 9 games, and then after our bowl game, um, our head coach then broke the news to us that he was retiring from football and he's going to go take care of his family. Because his wife
mm,
was, at the time too, his wife was dealing with cancer. Um, so we were all in the panic mode because, as coaches, you're like, oh shoot, like the head guy's stepping down, so they might bring in a new head guy and they might let us
yeah.
all go.
And replace everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that happened, and I remember this to this day, because I have notes in my phone of events that happened that year. Um, he stepped down. He broke the news June 7th, and then June 8th. Um, our AD called me and was like, "Hey, we're thinking of giving you the interim head coach title for the fall." My mind, I was like, "Wow, all this stuff is coming at me so fast. Like, I don't even know if I can do it." Um, and I was already in Utah. In the summer, me and my family will make the trip up to Utah to go visit our in-laws and spend the summer up there. And he broke the news to us on Zoom, and yeah, we were all in panic mode. And but the AD called me and asked if I wanted to be the interim head coach. I told him, man, give me a couple hours because I can't. I got to make sure this is the right thing for me and my family.
yeah.
Um,
Because it comes with a lot of responsibility
yeah,
and time away from home.
and mind you, like if you're interim and you don't do too good, you're gonna be canned anyways.
Replaced right
Yeah,
away. Yeah,
and had a couple hours, broke the news to my wife, and we were all in shock. And me and my wife were like, "Yeah, let's do it," because we did. I accepted the interim uh, title because of the coaches at the time. I wanted to, reassure to them, we're staying together, and also the
Yeah.
kids that are coming back for the fall because we had a season in 2 months from our spring season. While all that stuff happened, my wife had, this is the story that not many people know about. Like on our way back to Utah, my wife caught COVID.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and this was the scariest moment in my life because not many.
Didn't she just have a baby at that time?
Yeah, she gave birth to our son the year before in October. Our youngest, October 2nd. Um, so yeah, on our way home, my wife was like, "I don't feel good," and at the time they didn't have any treatment for COVID. They just say, "Hey, isolate,"
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that was pre-vaccine,
yeah,
huh?
and my wife, she went through it hard because she got put on a ventilator. Um,
Ah,
from when we got back home, June 27th, and she was on a ventilator for like I think 16 days. At the time too,
What?
I was kind of, shuffling.
So much going at one
Yeah,
time.
no, but I'm grateful for again prayers, my in-laws, my sister, and my parents for being there because it was only me and my three kids. And my kids, they love mommy, so they wanted mommy over daddy.
Yeah.
And I
mm,
was trying to
Yes.
do my best to be there for them, while also trying to, be strong for my wife because, I didn't know if she was gonna make it. Because she was on the vent, she was sleepy for, you know, 16 days, and I kind of second guess, me being a coach because I was
That's
like,
all
if
right.
if my wife couldn't
Yeah.
make it, I have to take care of my kids. Um, but no, all that stuff happened. With the power of prayer and faith, my wife woke up and make kind of started her journey to try to get back on her feet. But ultimately, she got discharged from the hospital. Right up to report day for us at NMMI. So it was like July 23rd or 24th, right? Something like that. That she came home, and our guys reported July 28th. And when that happened too, like it was a challenging year because back I don't know if you guys remember back then, if you had COVID, they'll do contact tracing.
oh yeah, yeah,
Kids back, at the time they were like, oh, they'll figure out a way to try to get contact trace so they can skip out on practice or get a little free time,
Yeah.
especially at a military school. They wanted to get out of stuff and all this, but it was a challenging fall camp for us because my O-line coach too, his mom passed away from COVID. It was hard. So he had to miss some time for that. And then crazy thing is my all of my staff, so I had five, there were five of us on my staff that fall, and three of them got COVID. So it was only me and my receivers coach running practice, and half of our team is in quarantine because of the contact tracing stuff. And then while trying to get ready for that year, there was a lot of other challenges too that we faced. But man, going through that season as an interim head coach, and then getting the title removed from getting the interim title removed from my name, after we won the first conference championship in school history for football. It was kind of like a little bit of weight lifted over my shoulders just because of everything that we went through. But then winning it all that year as a first year head coach was probably the cherry on the cake. Just because of, again, just looking back at that journey that year, it wasn't easy by any means. People don't know that we only had 5 coaches on that staff, 3 on offense, 2 on defense. I had to coach the D line and the linebackers that year with my DB coach. But somehow we made it all the way and won a national championship. So I'll take it.
Your journey is such a roller coaster ride, Coach. You have highs and lows,
Yeah.
and now you're on a climb. But I'm still imagining going back to what your mom was saying. And I think we always say on our podcast how important the Psalm 1 prayers are from our parents, because it's the power of prayer that, regardless of where we're at in life, our stumbles are still elevated out of that low, because of the power of our parents is prayer. So, who was your supporting cast, during these lows, like whether family or close friends?
To be honest, is when my wife woke up from being on a ventilator. It was her was the backbone to it all. Because she did it all with trying to recover from COVID and taking care of our kids. Because we had 2 young ones. Like we had a 6-month-old, 8-month-old baby, and then a 1-year-old at the time. And then also um, our parents, they call check in on us and making sure that we were good. But also my sister that came out to support me during that time because she flew out, took care of my kids while my wife was trying to get back on her feet and while I was trying to start this new journey as an interim head football coach. But yeah, it was mainly those people and also my coaching staff during that time because I couldn't do it without at work. I couldn't do it without my coaches. But behind the scenes, it was really my wife was the backbone to it all, and prayers and support from our parents, and help from my sister.
Yeah, love the journey, Coach. And so now you're transitioning from NMMI to your current position. How did that go? Did you have to take any of your previous staff over to your new
Yeah, it
place?
was. Crazy thing is too, like I wasn't even looking for to really leave NIMI because I was in a good position. I was looking to build a powerhouse there and make another one run to get another championship. But New Mexico Highlands came calling, and it was an opportunity that me and my wife looked at, and we couldn't turn it down just because it's a 4-year school. It's at a Division II level in the RMAC conference, and it's an opportunity for us to come here and really make a change and build a winning program. Because New Mexico Highlands, like I didn't take this position because it was a premier location for a coach to come to. I took it because I saw the opportunity to build something. Because Highlands, in the past, the history is not good as far as like
Yeah.
athletics. But I took it as an opportunity to come do something special. Like we did at New Mexico Military. Um, but I offered all the jobs to my staff at NIMI, but my O-line coach was the only one that came with me. Um, and some of my coaches on the staff at NIMI, they took other jobs too as well or stayed back. And now they're at different, schools.
Such a good legacy that you guys created, and that's good to hear. You guys all went back and still get back to where you guys started. But then, eventually you have to grow. I mean, it's not any heartburn of, it's just the nature. If you can control your own future, I mean, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So, but late congratulations, Coach,
Yeah.
on the new
Oh,
position.
thank you. I appreciate it. No,
Yeah.
it's been
Real
a
pleasure.
blessing, and I took this job because of our president, Dr. Neil Wolf. He's been great to work with. He's the one that, gave me assurance and support, that I will get the support while I'm working to try to build a contender here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what, everything that you've gone through, there's a lot of doubt, self-doubts and a lot of, questioning about the path that you've taken in your life. But you had, just listening to your story, you had so much good that came right afterwards. And I feel like every time that there's something that's very good coming, I feel like the devil would try
Right.
to go make you go through these challenges and make you have self-doubts, right? So I feel like you've already built up an armor enough to where you're like, okay, well, whatever challenges, bring it on. But the best part about, what I've noticed is that you always make sure to talk with your wife first. You always make sure that, even though it went from, for you being single to having your parents there, and then your mom was the one that was, that really pushed you to now that you have an established family. Um, with that family, you now have also staff, which your players at the same time, right? So what is it? What does it look like for our head coach, Kurt Taufa asau, with the new role that you're playing? What are you looking forward to now with gaining in this position?
No, I'm looking to build really. For me, like I'm big on relationships. But no, going back to what you said, like my wife's been there through it all. Like I couldn't be doing what I'm doing without her. When we got married in 2015 is when I started coaching. She was the one that kept pushing me. Say, yeah, go live, go, go keep chasing what you want to chase. I'll support you no matter what. And like I said, I give my mom all the credit for molding the type of man that I am today. But I give all my wife the credit for really where I'm at in my career. Um, but here at New Mexico Highlands, we're trying to flip the roster and recruit high characteristic kids. Um, high characteristic kids, meaning like good GPA kids, good kids, that comes from good families, and also kids that love the game of football, that are looking for an opportunity to continue their goal, chasing their goals or dreams, whether get a degree or continue to, or get a foot in the door to keep pushing to the NFL if that's their goal. Um, and really coming here and trying to open up more avenues to kids from back home, that they can come here and utilize that opportunity to chase that dream that they're looking for. And I feel like year one we've established some pretty good avenues and opportunities for our kids, and we so far we have 14 kids from American Samoa signed to come play football here.
Oh, nice.
Wow, wow. And
Also,
so
can
when they
we
went, go
pull
ahead.
up one of those
Yeah, yeah,
comments? Sorry
sure.
to leave
Go
our
ahead. No,
viewers
you're good.
here. Thank you, our viewers. You have a lot to offer these young men that had the same opportunity you had growing up. Thanks for being a great inspiration. Yeah. I love it, Janet.
Thank you, Janet.
And then, Coach, you mentioned about the kids back home, and I know you recently just came from Samoa. You had some camp out there. What was that camp? What was the purpose of that camp?
Yeah, it was the purpose of that camp was to really put myself and our coaches in our school in front of those kids that are that love football, that are looking to go to college to play football, and also letting them know that I'm no longer at New Mexico military, and
Mm,
now I'm gonna at a higher level, and then I'm going to recruit you to come to play Division II football here at New Mexico Highlands, while also letting them know that, hey, like, the higher the level, the higher the requirements are. So you got
Yeah.
to have good grades. You got to have, you got to stand out on the football field from everybody else. So, and that was kind of like the
Yeah,
purpose of our
yeah,
camp. It was to put ourselves out there.
yeah. No, I like the what you're giving back to, like you said, this is what you sort of envision when leaving high school, but then now it comes full circle. Now you have that opportunity to give back to some of the kids that you see, or sort of like, hey, that sounds like, me, but I'm gonna share with you guys some of the things I wish I knew. And so you're also, you know, talk to me about the coaches on island. Are they also involved in your camp?
Yeah, they were there. Majority of them were there. Because
Okay.
we started at the gym in Pago. Everybody met up there and went there, and we kind of give a little brief of what we were doing. Ate breakfast, with the kids and the coaches, and told them like, hey, look, we're gonna go to the Samoa's football field, and we're gonna have really a big man camp, O line, D line, and then we're gonna have skill camp where all the skill guys, linebackers, running backs, quarterbacks, DBs, wide receivers. Just pretty much we want you guys to run these certain routes while you want to see defensive guys cover, and obviously O line, D line working on little fundamentals with footworks and all that stuff, and working on pass rush stuff. That Saturday we were there, and I felt like it was a success because I know our recruiting team that we went down with was a little worried that we might not get enough kids to come to Las Vegas, New Mexico. But ultimately, we got 14 kids from American Samoa signed to come play football, and we got 2 to play softball. We have 1 that'll be coming to play volleyball.
Nice. Man, such a blessing on the work that you provide, Coach, and everyone else that's involved. It's pretty much everyone in the same line of work. I'm just grateful for you guys to take that back home and letting our kids back home know that, we're not leaving you guys, alone on this. We're going to continue to educate you guys and also help the coaches, gain some of the insight in your world
Yeah,
here at the collegiate level.
and we ended up having that night too. We ended up having a coaches it's like a little coaches meeting where we went there, and there was a good amount of coaches that were there that we had to watch film, talk about our schemes, they ask questions about certain techniques and all that stuff that we kind of shared what we were doing here with them as well.
So now that all the information is out there for these coaches to understand that you're no longer at Nimi, right? Um, all the other kids that we're looking at in different parts of the islands and around the world that wants to come to, how can they reach out to you? What is it that you're looking out for?
Yeah, no, obviously social media is a big part. You can find me on X or Twitter, Coach Taufa asau. You can follow me on there. Send a message. I'll do my best to reply because I get quite a few messages every day, and sometimes it'll get lost in the shuffle. Or you can reach out to me, on our school website, athletic website, where I have my email address on there. You can shoot me an email. And send me all your information. Send me your highlights, the class you're in. Height and weight is important, and please don't lie on your height and weight. Don't say you're 6'3" while you're 5'10", because that's something that'll turn off a coach. Really, turn them a different direction and go recruit another kid. Um, yeah, I would give my cell, but I wouldn't want a ton of messages and calls. But no,
Right.
just reach out through social media and check out our athletic website. You can fill out a questionnaire. I have a link on my bio in Twitter. You can fill out a questionnaire. They usually, we get me and my coaches will get all of that and send us an email. Or, if you really want to, come meet us in person. There's an open invitation to come out and check out any of our games, whether it be here at home or on the road. You're more than welcome to come watch our games. We'll get you a tour of our facilities, meet the coaches and the players, and yeah, have you probably standing on the sideline or sitting in the stands to watch our games on Saturdays.
And your schedule is released already, right, for
Yes,
this year?
yes,
Okay,
it's on again our athletic website, and on our social media too as well.
nice.
What do you say to parents out there that wants to push their kids, but their kids don't want to do this? Is it something that's so important that they need to understand as parents?
Yeah, no, I mean I encourage the parents to, you know, keep finding avenues and ways to get your kids exposure. Um, if a kid, wants to play football or wants to go play college football, wherever that is,
Mhm.
continue to get your kids exposure. I think going to that university's camp can help because you'll
Yeah.
meet the coaches and they'll see you in person. Don't pay for any recruiting services because they're scamming you.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because that's like a third party working, taking your money and saying that, oh, I know how to do it, but really they're all about the money. It's easy to reach out. Just look up our website or our names on social media and just give us shoot us a message and or send us an email or call the number that's on our website because it'll lead to our secretary, in athletics, and they'll connect us to you guys. But parents, keep encouraging your kids to try everything. Don't stick to one
Yeah.
thing. If football in it, like obviously academics. But also keep in mind too that everybody talks about their prime or their gap years where they can play. Like, don't wait until it's too late, because
Yeah.
your body's is different at 21 years old and 27 or 28, especially
Yeah.
with the nature of the college athletics is nowadays. Because everybody's good, and just please surround yourself with the right people that's going to give you the truth. Because a lot of people
Yes.
they follow what they want to hear. Like
Yep.
people, I can just show up and sell you a dream, and I might get 10 people to buy into that. But really see through everything because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to take advantage of you and your kids. Um,
Yeah.
just make sure you ask the right people because those people, talking and surrounding yourself with the right people can really help you get to where you want your kid to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I truly believe that because, we have to understand that these kids, when reality sets in, that the disappointment really gets to them and it drains them, makes them want to quit, not just in what they thought they were going to be, but in everything in their life. So, I want to ask you a question. You mentioned this about your wife, having to, she's done so much for you, but I want to ask you, how are you able to balance with the demanding job that you have and also being a father and a husband to your family?
Oh, that's a tough question. Um, again, my wife would always like remind me like, hey, like take a break, like go, let's get out of town for a little bit just to get your mind off of work because seems like you work nonstop.
Yeah.
But no, how I balance it is knowing when to you know separate work from family time. Like for example, like right now, like we're leading up to where I get home late. Get up early and get home late, and probably won't see my kids and wife that much. Over the summer when we have free time. So, and also making sure when I do have free time that I spend it, and make fun memories with my kids and my wife. That knowing that when we leave or when we're done with that event, it's something that we're going to remember as we move into the season. Um, but yeah, it's just understanding that when it's time to go home, leave everything at work and go home to the wife and kids. But no, it's like I said, my wife is, I don't know how she does it, but she's pretty good at it. She just deals with a lot of stuff that she don't really have to deal with, but she chose to because she believes in me and wants me to
Yeah.
really be good at what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I want to kind of extend the question to in a similar note. Do you feel you've satisfied, the parents' demands, not demands, but the expectation? You think they look at you now and I'm very pleased at your
My
accomplishments?
mom and dad,
Yeah,
I mean, I think so. Um,
yeah.
I could just feel it and also hear it, in our conversations and when they come visit us or when we go visit them is, I feel like I've done what they've asked,
Hmm.
or they wanted me to do, and hopefully they're proud of me. I know they are proud of me, and and I just want to say thank you again for keep pushing me because without them, I would be just another kid back home, just living life and you know, wasting mom and dad's money or food.
Uh, I only asked because I wanted to complete the circle, and I feel I agree with you. I do feel your parents are happy with everything that you've done to see the kid that that needed that nudge, that he's running on his own now, and just where he's at. He's been to the highest of the NFL,
Mhm.
and now he's at the top tier of everyone wants to be a head coach, and that's where you're at. So, but me, as an uncle and family member, I could tell you, you know, very proud of all your accomplishments,
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
don't hesitate to share that story, of you. And again, like we mentioned earlier, very grateful for you for accepting this invitation because we knew that story had to be told, and a lot of people need to hear, the struggles, the roller coaster ride that you had, and the supporting cast, and those who really made an impact on those small decision making. Because sometimes we're hesitant to answer that call,
Yep.
right? That position, whether it was fear or of the unknown, but there's always that someone that's going to nudge you just a little bit and say, "Go for it." Good supporting cast
Yeah.
overall, coach.
Yeah. No, that was like. I'm glad you brought that point of fear of the unknown because I think that was the biggest thing for me was leaving home was fear of not being able to make it. When I have so much you know relying on it. So much expectations that my mom and dad set forth for me that that I was like, man, I don't know if I fail, then what? But no, I get this question asked a lot. They asked me if there's anything I would change. That would I go back and change it? I told people no, because
Mm,
I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for everything that
Yeah,
happened in the past. So I wouldn't change
yeah.
anything.
that is true. I was going to ask you that question, but I'm glad that you answered that.
Okay.
It's yeah. So quick question, because you mentioned about uh spending so much money for food, your parents, all that stuff, right? Favorite food, favorite Samoan dish.
Favorite Samoan dish is the sapasui.
Nice.
Yes. Yes. All right. Toughest opponent you've ever faced.
Whoa. Uh, any level
Hey,
are you talking about like
football,
as
football.
player
When you were
or
playing, yeah, a player, any player, yeah. High school, college,
man?
NFL.
There was this kid. It was either this kid from named Ricky that was at a we I went up against. the junior college all stars, or it's the long offensive lineman that was a guard for the Bears. I forgot his first name, but his last name is Long. He played at Oregon, and the guy was huge, has huge hands, and was really tough. Yeah,
Tough as in his strength or his speed,
pretty
or
much
what
because he
was
was a
it?
first rounder. I played up against him when in our preseason game, and me and him were both rookies at the time, and he ended up
Mm.
starting and went to a couple Pro Bowls and all that stuff. But that was him, left guard for the Bears at the time, 75. Last name Long.
Okay,
What was
favorite
your
Fiji
preference,
song.
coach?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I meant to ask this earlier when you switched positions from O line to D line. What was your natural fit? Was it D line?
Man, to be honest, no, it was offensive line. That's the crazy thing is I got recruited to NMMI as an offensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
After the first day of practice at NMMI, Coach Jeff Flynn walks up to me and was like, "Hey, tomorrow go turn in that red jersey, or go turn in a white jersey and get a red jersey. You'll be playing D line from now on."
Wow.
So I did, but here's something I would, if I would go back and change, was in the NFL. Like if I had the chance to go back and play O line, I would go. I would
I see.
try it before finishing.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
That's
what?
all controlled by the coaches, which is
So
what you're
we were.
doing now.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, go ahead,
With
Justin.
Fiji passing away, what is your favorite Fiji song?
Man, I have a lot. I love. I mean, Fiji got me through some stuff now. Like that
Mm.
was like it was always island reggae going through college pregame. But no, the Fiji song I like. My top two is Joanna and Anything You Want.
Mm.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm not gonna ask about Joanna, but that is a catchy
Yeah,
song too. Yeah.
I just like the
So
beat and kind of yeah. I mean, I just like it. I just like
yeah,
Fiji
how it
overall. Yeah,
flows, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of boys who dream of going to the NFL, right? So, what's your word of advice to any young Polynesian athlete chasing a dream?
man, take it serious. Take care of your bodies and surround yourself with the right people. Because
Mhm.
hanging out with the wrong group of people can lead you down a pathway that you wouldn't want to find yourself in. But surrounding yourself with the right people and having a strong support system that'll continue to push you, even if you feel like you can't make it, like it'll go a long way.
Okay, cool. Arlington, is there anything?
No, to his point, there's a favorite saying we always hear from our parents, especially when they're sending us off for a long period of time, or this is when they know that you're going to be gone, you've reached adulthood and likely going to go start your own family and not return. But the word is always, um, "Okialu ka inga kamiki."
It's on
And
Leah Kala. And I think that's where I get it from, is that like not believing it when the parents said it at first, but then going through it and actually having good friends that care about you. Like, that solidifies that saying.
Mhm. Yeah, it is so true. And what stuck to me, like what my mom said, is kind of like what your mom mentioned to you before you left was, um, my mom went a little bit further, which was kind of interesting. But she always said, stay away from those Samoan kids in the military because they're pretty bad. And then I joined the military, and what's funny about it was I became the bad person that you didn't want your kids to be around.
Hey, you go
So
through those phases, like a little bit of phases right there. Like kind of experience some stuff and then kind of get back on track. Okay, I got to stop doing that.
Right.
Kurt, do you have two boys? Is it two boys
Yes,
or one girl, one boy?
I have 3 kids. My oldest is a boy, King. My daughter is in the middle. It's Lorraine, and then my youngest is Zion.
So, 5 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now, they come across this video and they're looking at the video right now. What would you say to your kids?
Be better than daddy. Learn from my mistakes, or and be better than who I was. Be a better father than me, and be better at everything that you um, really do in life. And I hope that teachings from mommy and daddy, can help you, build a solid foundation that can launch you to bigger and better things in life.
Good, good. Thank you. Well, we have one more comment here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it up, Arlington.
Okay. Congratulations, and just hearing your story and your journey with your parents and wife as strong supporters. I too am very proud of all your accomplishments. So, Janet is my sister, by the way. So,
Hi,
I
Janet.
wanted to make sure that she tuned in with all the Taufa asau members. So,
Hope one day we'll get together and meet you guys in person.
yeah.
Well, that's all I have for tonight. I'm very grateful to have you on here. Arlington, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to say or
No, just again, thanks to Coach for accepting the invite and for sharing your story. There's a lot of maybe topics that a lot of folks don't want to share
yeah.
about their background, but we thank you for willing to share that with us and for our viewers. But then I think it makes an impact to our Samoan kids to understand you also, been through what they're likely going to go through once they come from Samoa. And just to hear from someone that came from Samoa and also had those doubts, a lot of these questions are going through their young minds as they're going to make their own journey. So thank you for sharing a lot of those intimate details. I know it's going to be valuable to the young ones because it makes sense more to them to follow your footsteps. And once they get out to the real world, and if they ever end up under your leadership or any other coach, I know they'll take that to heart and take it very serious. So also thanks to our viewers for chiming in. And I know we had a very small tribute to Fiji. I know a lot of people are hurting out there. So yeah, condolences to all our Pacific people who are mourning at this time. So and thanks also for inserting that small segment for Fiji.
Arlington, I'm gonna put up the last two comments we have on here.
Okay. Thank you, Coach, for paving a path. And is there continuation to that one? Okay. He's tipping his hat over, in recognition. Yeah. Hi, Kurt. God bless you all. And I think the last one was that Moni. I think that's his signature line, right, Moni?
Yes.
If it is, yeah. Thank you, brother Moni. You're, such a great supporter of the podcast.
Coach, is there anything you would like to say to our viewers out there? One more last thing.
No, well, first off, I just want to say thank you again to you guys and Uncle for reaching out. When I saw the message, I was like, oh, I mean, it's an honor to get on and share my story and kind of get to know you guys through as we do this episode of the podcast. No, I mean, it's an honor to get on here and share my side of my journey. Hopefully, it'll inspire somebody, especially our young generations that are looking to kind of walk the footsteps that I did, and hopefully, you know, um, they do it better than I did. Um, But no, I mean, I just want everybody to know out there, all the viewers, like, use me as a resource, please. Like, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people out here that, kind of want to, take advantage of, especially our people back home, because they know that we don't know any better, because we're kind of isolated from what's really going on out here, what's really happening. But use myself as a resource along with other Polynesian coaches that care for our Polynesian kids, because one thing I would hate to see is a parent sending their kid somewhere that ended up them being screwed. So even though if you're not attending my playing under me or young, please reach out. I mean, I'll be happy to give you some advice or kind of direct you to where you want to go, and share some information that I know that can help you at the college level, because the landscape of college athletics is changing every day as we proceed forward. I would be happy to share some of my thoughts and kind of recommendations to you all parents and student athletes that are out there. So, and also again, I coach at New Mexico Highlands University. You guys are always welcome to come out and check out, small town Las Vegas, New Mexico. It's pretty up here. We're in the mountains, a lot of green. You get a lot of snow in the winter. It's cool right now, and I have some Polynesian kids from Samoa that are here with their parents that are dropping them off for school, because we report Monday. So, but no, that's it. Grateful for the opportunity to share my story, and if there's anything I could do to help promote or whatever, please shoot me a message.
Thank you. Arlington, I have one more comment.
Okay, from Roger Moore. Roger Moore sounds like that one actor from the 80s. Roger Moore. Malo soy fu ma from New Zealand. Heaps of Philly Mailata supporters over here. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
Mailata, is that
So,
the Eagles?
like,
The Eagles? Jordan Mailata?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
Oh,
thank you
that's what
so
it
much
meant.
again, Coach. We really appreciate you being on our platform to share the journey. After this, we're going to start cutting and making those videos so that everyone's aware and informed about, where you're currently at right now. And very importantly, like all the parents, because I know a lot of parents and kids don't understand how the program works. You don't just leave high school and just go wherever. There's footwork that
Right.
that comes with that, and that comes with the knowledge of how it works and getting the right people in the network to be connected. So we'll make sure to get that taken care of for you after this. And again, to all our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you all. Just get ready for next week. We'll have those videos ready for you guys to share and let your people know as well. And this doesn't just hit Samoa, but this is for all the other islands that's out there, Tonga, Fiji, because we did have a comment before where a Fijian was asking about for his child, and so this is for all of you out there that needs more information. Coach Kurt Taufa asau is available. He has his information with his college, and you can look out and reach out to him. And we'll make sure to put that in the videos that we'll cut for you so that everyone can have that information. And other than that, that's all I have for tonight. And to everybody, to God be all the glory. You have a good Sunday. Arlington, is there anything? Sorry, I know I turned out to you.
No, no, you're good, Lasso. And sorry, apologies, Lasso. It didn't include you last time. So also thank you,
Oh no,
Lasso,
you're good.
for the podcast that you put on. And Coach, one last thing, best wishes for you in the upcoming season.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck for the season. And again, congratulations. And to everyone, have a good night.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night. Thank you
Good
again.
night. Night.